The film opens with a violent armed robbery. A group of thieves takes several men hostage and coldly kills them one by one. After the gunshots, one of the robbers quickly grabs a briefcase, and the group hastily escapes in a car. The scene then shifts to Harry sitting in his room. He looks deeply tormented, as if haunted by a nightmare-filled past. The space around him is filled with coldness and solitude. Harry receives a strange letter in his mailbox. Upon opening it, he discovers it is an empty report sent by a man named Henderson. The vague content of the letter only worsens Harry's mood. In frustration, he pulls a stool from under the bed, where a dagger is cleverly hidden in the leg of the chair. This action reveals Harry's dark intention: suicide. However, just as he is about to go through with it, he suddenly stops. Harry moves away from the chair, walks toward the window and sits down. As he looks outside, his gaze unexpectedly lands on a woman, someone he never expected to be an illegal arms dealer. Harry enters the kitchen, where a woman named Emma is preparing a meal. He doesn't say a word to her, silently cooking and eating by himself, completely quiet. Emma notices his presence but seems hesitant. She starts to offer him a cup of tea, but for some reason, she stops midway and continues with her work without saying anything further. Later, Harry goes to a local church. He begins cleaning little by little, working diligently and quietly. When the task is finished, Harry sits down on one of the pews in the church. Tired and drained, he slowly drifts off to sleep in the quiet of the holy place. In his dream, Harry sees a man holding a gun, coldly aiming it directly at him and pulling the trigger. He wakes up suddenly, drenched in sweat, from the terrifying and vivid nightmare that felt so real. This scene clearly reflects the deep obsession Harry is enduring, not only due to the sins and painful memories of his past, but also because of the horrific hallucinations that continuously haunt him. After the nightmare, Harry once again contemplates ending his life. He stands on the edge of the first floor of the church, preparing to jump and free himself from the torment. But at that very moment, a vivid memory rushed back. He saw his wife and daughter, filled with joy, happiness, and peace in their warm home. The painful recollection caused him to freeze, trapped between the brink of despair and the desire to live. In Harry's tragic memory, he was talking on the phone when, suddenly, he saw his wife and daughter across the street. Out of nowhere, a car sped toward them at a horrifying pace, slamming into them and taking both of their lives on the spot. Stunned and desperate, Harry rushed to the scene, but as he got closer, he was horrified to realize the men inside the car were the very same criminals responsible for the brutal armed robbery that opened the film. This haunting coincidence deepened Harry's pain. The murderers quickly fled, leaving Harry standing in stunned silence, overwhelmed by the excruciating loss and his helplessness in preventing their escape. This tragic memory continued to haunt Harry, driving him down a path of vengeance. Back in the present, Harry returned to his room. When he opened the mailbox, he found another piece of paper. This time, it was sent by Henderson, making the situation even more mysterious. The letter contained crucial information. Henderson had found a clue about the driver of the car responsible for the death of Harry's wife and daughter. Furthermore, he invited Harry to meet and discuss the details in person. Without hesitation, Harry immediately set out for the cafe where Henderson was waiting. Inside him, anger and hope intertwined, urging him to face the truth that lay ahead. In the conversation, Henderson revealed important information about the gang on the car. He shared with Harry their hideout and disclosed that they were running an illegal operation from a bar they owned. After thanking Henderson, Harry immediately headed to the mentioned bar. Once there, Harry ordered a beer, sitting quietly, observing and waiting for the right moment. When the bartender stepped away, he cautiously moved toward the back of the bar. There, Harry overheard the thugs discussing their illegal plans, which fueled his determination to expose them. Harry listened to the conversation between the men and quickly realized that they were the ones he had been hunting. Determined to learn more, he quietly hid in the back of their truck as they left the bar. The vehicle started moving, taking Harry to an undisclosed location. There, he witnessed two more thugs appear. It didn't take long for Harry to realize they were also part of the gang responsible for the tragedy that took his family. His anger and desire for revenge flared up stronger than ever. Quietly listening to the thugs' conversation, Harry witnessed two men being dragged onto the rooftop and tied up. They forced one of them to shoot the other two, but when he refused, they ruthlessly killed both victims. The horrifying scene shook Harry to his core. He realized that these thugs' words were not only brutal but also incredibly terrifying. In a panic, Harry hurriedly ran down the stairs trying to avoid being noticed. He quickly pulled his hood over his face and found a safe hiding spot, doing his best to observe without being detected. A few minutes later, one of the robbers walked out of the compound, crying for his dead comrades. Harry watched, completely stunned by the brutality, unsure of what to do next. However, he knew he couldn't abandon the long-held plan for revenge. After witnessing the haunting deaths, Harry returned home, his determination unwavering. He took his late wife's wedding ring, went to a jewelry store, and sold it to get the money he needed. With the cash in hand, Harry continued down the path he had chosen, heading toward the arms dealer, an important step in his plan. After handing the woman the requested money, Harry only waited for one thing he needed. The next day she handed him a small box. Harry took it back to his room, quietly opened it, and discovered a handgun along with ammunition inside. Now fully equipped, Harry was ready to execute his plan. He pushed the mattress against the wall and began loading the gun, each shot into the mattress a moment he imagined the faces of the thugs who had taken his family. The pain and anger flared up inside him, driving him closer to his ultimate goal. After thoroughly preparing both mentally and physically, Harry began training, fully focused on his quest for revenge. Before leaving, he prayed for the strength to face what was to come. With determination in his heart, Harry returned to the area he had visited earlier, waiting for the opportunity when the criminals would leave. He entered the building, his handgun carefully in hand, and began searching for the drugs they had hidden somewhere in the area. As he approached one of the criminals, the thug's momentary lapse in focus gave Harry the chance to launch a surprise attack. Harry hurriedly aimed the gun at Mark, but his hand trembled, causing the bullet to miss its target. Mark quickly seized the opportunity, charging into the room and attacking Harry. In the fierce struggle, the gun slipped from Harry's hand, and a brutal brawl erupted. Mark, in a frenzy, tried to stab Harry multiple times in the arm, inflicting severe wounds. Despite the excruciating pain, Harry refused to give up and fought back with all his strength. In the end, he drew his gun and shot Mark, causing him to collapse, groaning in intense pain. When the opportunity came, Harry stood face to face with Mark, his eyes filled with rage. He reminded him of the horrific crimes he and his gang had committed, taking away his wife and daughter, the ones he loved most. In his desperation, Harry pressed Mark about the whereabouts of the remaining criminals, longing for an answer. Mark, though clearly unwilling to reveal the information, finally admitted that they were heading to the countryside to distribute drugs. Harry, not allowing any mistakes, forced Mark to write down the address. However, in a moment of inattention, Harry gave Mark the opportunity to attack with a knife, but Harry quickly reacted, drawing his gun and firing a shot, stopping Mark's move before he could cause any harm. As Harry was finishing Mark off, Mark suddenly insulted his wife and daughter, using vulgar and provocative language. The insult made Harry's rage explode, and he lunged at Mark, beating him until he was motionless, releasing all the accumulated anger and suffering. After calming down, Harry suddenly realized he had just killed a man. A wave of guilt and regret hit him, leaving him feeling dizzy and broken. In that moment, Harry couldn't help but think about ending everything, but he wasn't sure if that would be the escape he was looking for. Though on the verge of despair, a sudden thought crossed Harry's mind. His quest for revenge was not yet complete. Determined not to give up, he regained his resolve, overcame the guilt and pain, and decided to continue down the path he had chosen. The next morning, Harry entered the kitchen and happened to run into Emma. This was the first time they had a brief conversation, but Emma began to open up about her past and the late wife of Harry. They both shared their sorrowful emotions, and in that quiet atmosphere, an unspoken connection began to form between them. However, before things could go any further, Harry felt the need to maintain some distance. He stepped back, apologized, and quickly left the room. The next day, still feeling uneasy about the incident, Harry decided to apologize to Emma once again, hoping that everything would return to normal. Later, Harry took a day off, seemingly needing time to sort through his thoughts and emotions before continuing his journey of vengeance. After preparing his clothes and retrieving his pistol, he set off for the countryside, ready to finish what he had started. Upon arriving, Harry noticed a private plane landing nearby. A man stepped out along with two criminals, and they exchanged a bag of drugs. After the brief exchange, the man returned to the plane and took off, leaving behind a new trail for Harry to follow. Harry quickly realized that the situation was much more serious than he had initially imagined. With anger boiling inside him, he loaded his gun and cautiously moved into the area, ready to act. Harry took a deep breath, then held it, aiming at the two criminals and firing with precision, taking them both down. The sound of gunfire echoed, causing two others, Mickey and Emil, to emerge from their hiding spots. In the chaos, Emil charged forward, stabbing Harry with a knife, causing him to feel a sharp, intense pain. However, Harry quickly reacted, shooting down Mickey and Emil. As the situation grew more tense, the surviving robbers hastily fled in the truck, leaving Harry alone in the dust. As the adrenaline began to fade, a nightmare of memories suddenly overwhelmed him. He was flooded with thoughts of his late wife, the happy moments they shared, and the pain of the loss came rushing back. The overwhelming grief caused Harry to collapse, his knees hitting the ground. In that moment, one of the criminals Harry thought had already been taken down slowly got to his feet and approached, ready to attack. Realizing the danger, Harry quickly reacted, drawing his gun and shooting the thug once again before he could get any closer. With a mix of relief and exhaustion, Harry headed home, knowing he needed to tend to his wounds and visit the pharmacy to take care of himself. Harry saw a doctor, who helped him bandage his wounds. The doctor carefully stitched up the injury and administered some shots to prevent infection. Meanwhile, Mickey and Emil returned to the scene, only to find that all the others were dead. They were shocked and enraged when they realized the brutality of what had happened. Back in the city, they discussed Mark's body and prepared to dispose of it. However, during this time, they accidentally found a receipt from a jewelry store, which clearly showed Harry's name and address. Mickey and Emil decided to track down Harry after discovering the connection between him and the chaos. They went to the jewelry store and confronted the clerk, threatening him to force him to provide information about Harry and his recent actions. Meanwhile, Harry ran into Emma, who informed him that she would be going on vacation to celebrate her birthday. Emma invited Harry to join her and gave him the address, which made him feel both excited and temporarily forget his worries. However, Mickey and Emil suddenly appeared and confronted Harry after following him. As Emma was about to leave, they pointed guns at him. In a moment of desperation, Harry bit into Emil's arm hard and quickly ran to his room. He drew his gun, ready to defend himself, but Emil caught up and attacked him violently, ultimately throwing him down to the first floor. Miraculously, Harry survived the fall and managed to escape from the church. Meanwhile, the two thugs entered, rummaging through Harry's belongings in search of clues. They accidentally discovered one of Henderson's letters, which could lead them to Harry's next move. At the same time, Harry desperately tried to contact Henderson for help, but was unable to connect. As Harry tries to resolve all the uncertainties, the scene shifts to Emil and Mickey, who have captured Henderson. They douse him with gasoline, preparing for what's to come, but first demand to know where Harry is hiding. Henderson, wanting to protect Harry, lies. However, Emil and Mickey show no hesitation. They carry out a brutal torture session, ending with them shooting him dead. Afterward, Harry returns to his parents' house and meets his sister Christy, his mood heavy with sorrow. Christy tended to Harry's wounds and advised him to go to the hospital, but Harry insisted that he had caught all the killers. He asked his sister for a few days of peace and quiet. After a few days, Harry left the house and went to the cemetery, where his wife and daughter were laid to rest. As he sat by their graves, he met his father and shared everything that had happened. He handed his father the gun and some bullets, asking him to prepare for what was coming next. Harry put on his combat gear and carefully loaded his gun, ready to face those who were coming for him. Mickey and Emil discovered his location and decided to bring someone else along to search for Harry's hiding place. However, they couldn't find him. They decided to check the barn, leaving Emil behind at the house. While sitting alone, Emil began to feel uneasy as he noticed blood flowing from his nose. Turning around, he was startled to find Harry standing right behind him, holding a gun in his hand. Harry shot Emil once, but when Emil reached for the gun, Harry didn't hesitate to fire again, ending his life. He then moved toward the barn where Mickey was hiding. The two engaged in a tense struggle. During the scuffle, Harry's gun fell to the ground. Without wasting any time, Harry grabbed a nearby knife and stabbed Mickey. Mickey tried to escape, but in the chaos, a can of gasoline spilled, soaking both of them. Harry then pushed Mickey into the fire, ending his life. Just when it seemed like everything was over, he turned around and was surprised to see another man aiming a gun at him. Harry calmly said that it was over, and the man should go home. The man complied and ran off. Harry returned home, listened to his favorite music, and began reminiscing about his wife and daughter. He decided to visit their graves. Finally, Harry collapsed to the ground, overwhelmed by despair. The scene shifted to Emma, who was waiting for Harry at the beach. Suddenly, Harry appeared and together they enjoyed a joyful moment. He thanked her for always being by his side. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more news summaries. See you next time, and have a great day.